it's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Abba, Abke, Naor, and your family name in Lithuania, in Kovno, was Nochavitz. And Abba, you were born in Kovno?
Yeah.
In what year?
1928.
28, wow. And you grew up in Kovno?
I'm not a child anymore.
You're amazing. You're incredible. And Abba, what do you remember of Kovno?
I remember home. My home.
It had a very...
My family. My brothers, they didn't survive.
You had two brothers?
I had two brothers, yeah. My grandparents, my uncles and aunts and cousins and friends and school and everything.
Did you go to a Jewish school?
To Hebrew school.
To Hebrew school.
Talmud.
And the shul, you...
I was singing in the big synagogue.
Is that the same synagogue
that
exists today?
There, yeah. I've been there a couple of times.
And Abba, you remember growing up there, and
I remember
you were happy growing up. You had a good childhood.
I remember every street in Kaunas. Kaunas is home.
Did you live near where Sally lived?
I lived near to the Hasidus synagogue, Italios Gatvi. The road was called Italios. Most of the people living at this road were Jewish people, because the synagogue is still there. It's closed, but it's still there. The building is still there.
Still there, yeah. And you remember your father was a
photographer,
but he was also a volunteer for the fire brigade.
He was volunteer in the fire brigade, and he was volunteer in the Lithuanian army in 1920, fighting against Poland. Therefore, he became a concession, the only one who could photograph in the big garden in Kaunas. There was only one. Only he was entitled to make photos there.
And did you know the famous photographer Kadushin?
I knew Kadushin. Kadushin was in Ghetto with us.
Sure.
I have his album in Kadushin.
And Abba, this is your book. You've got a picture of your parents in your book?
This is my book, and it's called My Weg vom Ghetto zum israelischen Geheimdienst. You know where it ends?
From the ghetto to
the Israeli Secret Service.
Wow. When you came here, you were involved in the Secret Service?
Have you heard about the Jews from Ethiopia?
Sure. Yeah.
I was between those who brought them.
Gee.
This is me in Sudan.
Wow. Abba, that's amazing. And Abba, you have a picture of your parents?
Yeah, just a moment. I gotta find them. Oh. This is my mother. And this is my father, who also survived. And this was my grandfather. He was killed already in 1941. When the big action, from Ghetto was. So part of our family went to the ninth.
To the Ninth Fort?
Yeah. Those are the only pictures that I have from my family, actually. My grandfather was 60 years old. Yeah.
And Abba, when you grew up, you had a lot of friends growing up?
A lot of what?
Friends. You were...
Friends?
Sure.
Yeah, there are a couple of guys like Solly that survived the concentration camp. We were together in the same camp. We were in Ghetto together, and then in Stuttgart, and then in Utting, in the outer camps of Dachau.
So can I just ask?
And we remained friends all our life.
All your life, yeah.
Because this was our family, actually. Because nobody of us had a family. So we found each other somehow.
Amazing. And Abba, can I just ask, when the Germans invaded, I think your father went to the fire department.
So fire department, he had to go to the fire department, but he came home a couple of hours later and said, you'll come with me to the fire brigade, it will be safer, maybe. And we stayed overnight there, and next day, my parents decided to leave Kaunas. So we were running like anybody else.
And where did you go?
We came till Vilnius the same day. We made it in one day.
Wow.
Somehow we were taken with military trucks part of the road. But you have to imagine with 3 children. My little brother was 2 years old.
Sure.
And I was 13. My older brother wasn't yet 15, 14 years old.
And how long did you stay in Vilnius?
Did you stay where?
When you went to Vilnius, how long were you there?
To Germany?
No, in Vilnius, when you went to Vilnius.
In Vilnius, we stayed a couple of weeks in Vilnius. And then my parents decided to go back to Kaunas. If you read the book, you'll know. But you don't read German.
We must make it into, we must translate.
I have the translation in English.
You do have it?
But I am looking for somebody to
publish?
To publish, to make a book out of it. My grandson and grand-grandson, they made the translation from German to English, to Hebrew, one part to Hebrew and one part to English.
It's very important.
I've sent to America, somebody said, she's a professor of some university, she said she's able to find somebody to publish the book, but they wanted to publish it in 2-3 years later. They said, look, 2-3 years I won't be here anymore.
You'll be, you'll be.
Yeah.
And Abba, can I just ask, when you came back to Kaunas, did you go back to your home?
Sure.
And it was still there, nobody had gone inside?
I don't know, it was a home with 6 different apartments. Even Christian Goyim lived with us together, some of bitches.
Wow.
They were very friendly with us all the time, but until the Germans came.
Until the Germans came, and then you saw the difference.
When the Germans came, we came back from Vilnius. We tried to come back to Kaunas, which is a long story. I was sent, my father was the first one, German soldiers took him with a car, and my mother thought it's better for him to go with them because it's safer, because we knew that for men it's dangerous. And we stayed in some Lithuanian small village that took us in for a couple of weeks. And then the same guy brought us not directly in Kaunas, but in a little place before Kaunas. And then my mother said to me, go home and bring the father. He should take us. Because my older brother, he was he was a dark look, she was afraid to send him, and he looked much older. But I was a little boy also. I went home, which wasn't easy, because at that time you had to put on the Magen David.
This yellow star.
Yeah, and I didn't have it. I had one, but in my pocket, not here. But I managed to come almost home. And a couple of meters from home, our neighbor, the Goy, was staying outside. I was so happy to see her because we lived many years together. And but she, the minute she saw me, she said, "Aha, the Jews are coming back." So I understood my father is not home. She was anti-Semite, but not during all those years that we lived together. And now the Germans were there. She showed her really face. So I understood that my father is not there. I was running away. I went to the sister of my father. I found my father there and part of our bigger family. I told them where my mother was, but nobody of them was ready to go and bring her because it was too dangerous to go in Kaunas. So I had to go back, which wasn't easy. This is to make short a long story. I managed to bring my mother and my two brothers safely in Kaunas, and then the family was united, but after a couple of weeks we had to leave town and go to the ghetto.
And the ghetto was in Slobodka?
Ghetto was in Slobodka. And this is when the troubles started, actually.
And Abke, you remember being in the, obviously you remember the hardships of the Slobodka, of the ghetto, having to find food.
I don't have to remember because I never forgot.
You never forgot.
You live with this experience all your life. You don't talk about it, but you have it inside. I don't have to tell you, you spoke to Sully, so I guess you know part of the story.
Yeah.
But when a child lives 4 years in a situation like this, you think that you are normal. But are you normal? Is it possible to remain normal?
No.
But we understood, not only me, the others too, that we rely on ourselves. There is nobody there to help us. And now without a profession, without a family, without school, without education, you come to a land you don't know nobody, and nobody takes care of you. We were never newcomers in this country. We were play-team.
Refugees.
It's a big difference between Oleh Hadash and the play-team. Nobody took care of us. They gave us a couple of pounds and said, "Goodbye, Charlie. Now you take care of yourself." Some of us were lucky, especially the couple from Kaunas, because the language was not new for us.
You learned Hebrew?
Of course.
You had a...
Of course, language, and I participated in the underground already in Europe. So when I came here after 6 months in Cyprus, I was already a halbe Israeli.
And
I knew the slang already, I knew everything, and the people of the Haganah took care of me, so I was lucky.
Abba, can I ask you, when you were in Kovno, in Slobodka, in the ghetto, did you ever go outside the ghetto to try find food?
I most of the time I was Albote. You know what Albote is? 10 or 12 young boys like me worked for the Jewish community there. They didn't have any telephone, so from the gate to the committee you had always had to have connection with each other. So we used to stand 100 meters one from another, and bring over news from the gate. If somebody very important German comes or not, they should prepare themselves. This was our job. Eilbote. And in a certain way, this was a privilege, because we always knew what is going to happen ahead already. I was Albati for the police, like Soli was you knew Uri Hanoch. Uri Hanoch was for the Arbeitsamt, the what do you call Arbeitsamt in Hebrew? Responsible for the jobs, you know. And so we came closer to each other there. And with Soli, I came after the ghetto was liquidated. I came with Soli to Stutthof and his father, and then we were sent to the same outer camp of Dachau, Utting.
And can I just ask you, Abba, in the ghetto, what happened to your mother and to your brother?
My mother was working in the what they called Werkstatt in Ghetto. My father was working he was in the underground, and he was working in a German hospital, hospital for soldiers, injured soldiers. So he could bring news what's going on, because he was working for a long time there. But we were in the ghetto. We were myself, my mother, and my little brother until the ghetto was liquidated.
And your elder brother?
My elder brother was shot before the ghetto was closed. They went before the ghetto was closed. Children were sent to try and buy goods from the villages around the ghetto. And 24 children were caught by the Germans before the ghetto was closed. And they were liquidated the same day. My brother was 14 years old.
And they just killed him?
Yeah. Not only him, all of them. 24 children.
And Abba, did you ever go yourself to look for food, to go outside the ghetto?
Sure.
It was very dangerous.
But this was the only way to survive. I learned how to make bagel. And I used to sell bagel in the ghetto. I learned how to make candies from sugar. You know, in circumstances like this, you're getting very old very soon, very fast, and you learn very fast. I grew up in the ghetto. I had to take care of my little brother too, when the parents went to work, which wasn't easy.
And what happened eventually to your mother and your brother?
My mother and the little brother, they came with us to Stutthof. But from Stutthof, on the 24th of July, 1944, they were taken to Auschwitz. They came to Auschwitz direct to the gas chambers. He was a big boy at that time. He was already 5 years old. He grew up in the ghetto.
It's so sad.
So those are the same stories that everyone is telling you, more or less.
And Abba, when you came to Dachau, do you remember? Well, obviously you remember for sure. But in Dachau, Did you actually, were you in the camp of Dachau itself? Or
Outer camp.
in the outer camp?
Like Solly. We were together in the same camp, in Utting. I just had an email from Munich that the church in Utting was burned down.
It was burnt down.
Yeah, yesterday I got an email from the vice president of the Bavarian parliament. I'm more in Munich than here.
And can I ask, what did you do in when you were now in Utting, and what work did they make you and Solly do?
Look, Solly lived more for himself. He didn't go to schools like me. I have the last 25 years, more than 25 years, I'm 6 months a year in Munich and go. Look at this. It's hard to understand. This is what I do.
So you give talks in...
I do talks, still do.
In the different schools and...
This I'll show you the last one which I made 2 months ago. This is I'm every year in the same school.
And this is in Munich?
In Bavaria.
Bavaria.
Not only Munich. This is what the children write to me. This is what the children write to me. Do they have to?
When they meet you there, it must be so...
When they meet you. They meet me every time.
And this is in Germany?
Yeah. I have arranged exchange of children, Germany, Israel. And this goes on already for 15 years. You'll find it every year. The Germans come here and the Israelis go to Germany. Nobody talks about it here.
I've actually met a group of Germans. They come here for a year and they volunteer and then they spend time with the survivors.
This is something else. But for me, it's important that the children should come together.
It's wonderful. And you bring them here?
Yeah.
Abba, that's amazing. And Abba, can I just ask you, when you were in...
This was the last one. I'll show you here. 2 months ago.
And there you're giving...
You know what's written here?
Kleiner Mann.
Kleiner Mann mit großem Herz.
With a great heart.
Yeah.
A small man with a great heart.
This is him.
This is you. This is.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
This is the article in the newspaper. And this is the mayor of a town. He wrote me in the Golden Book. I don't know why.
I know why. Abba, this is... And Abba, this is a picture of
my father.
Your father.
This is a painting. Very original.
And Abba, we have here pictures of you and the German president. First of all, we have with Ruby Rivlin, the president of Israel. The German president. Was this picture here in Israel when he came?
Which one? This was taken in Dachau.
That was in Dachau?
When he was visiting Dachau, our president. And I took them around in the camp.
And with Merkel, that was also in Dachau?
Merkel, this one was taken in Dachau, but I have pictures with Merkel in Berlin too.
And there's Mike Pence, the Vice President of America.
Yeah. He cried. He and his wife and his daughter, all three of them were there.
And you took them around Dachau?
I took them around, yeah.
And this is the picture when you were liberated.
This is the picture when I was liberated. This was 6 months after the liberation. Here's the picture much better.
So, Abba, can I just ask you, what type of work did they make you do when you were in the camps in Dachau? What did you have to do in
the concentration camp?
Near Dachau.
Anything, building, carrying. There was a time when there was a small train, and I was driving the small train for 4 kilometers from the factory where the concrete things were being done. I don't know the names in English, but you know, to make cement, we had to carry cement bags 50 kilo. They were heavier than we were. People didn't survive. It was hard to survive. How did they survive? I don't know. Solly had a good job in Uding. He was working in the kitchen because he came with his father. So this was something special.
And Abba, your father, where was your father at this time?
My father was not far away from me, but I didn't know where he was.
And you didn't know that he was alive?
I didn't know, no. Just a couple of months after we were liberated. One day he came, when I was in a camp in Munich.
It must have been the most emotional...
He said, I'm your father. But he stayed all his life in Germany. He immigrated to America, but he came back. Because he was by himself, he didn't know the language, and the photographer in America without the language, without connections, he came back to Germany. He had a good life. He became a rich man.
And he never did he come visit you here?
Sure.
And Abba, can you mention, I know it's difficult, but could you speak a little bit about what happened when you had to go on the death march?
I have a picture from the death march. It was lately made with me.
How long were you?
A real film.
A film?
From the death march, yeah.
How long were you on the march for?
About 9 days.
With virtually no food, no water?
Nothing.
You had to eat the grass?
We used to eat the grass, of course.
Oy.
It's not so bad, I must tell you. I'm telling always in the school, the children, hey, you can try. It's not so bad.
And Abba, you saw people that...
You can survive.
And you saw people that... Yidden that...
I saw people dying, yeah.
Oy.
Sure. You got up in the morning and the next to you was dead. This was a daily procedure.
And when you were in the ghetto...
We knew that we are sentenced to death. We knew, we didn't know when and how. But we knew that our deadline is written somewhere. It came, the liberation came sooner than we thought.
And Abba, can I just ask you, when you were in the ghetto, you also saw Yidden dying in the ghetto as well?
Yeah. You could see them on the streets.
Aye, aye, aye.
why are you asking all these questions? What do you need it for? Tell me.
It's so important. I can't tell you, but here, this picture of you. This is very soon after the liberation.
Yeah, this is 6 months after the liberation.
And what happened? You woke up one morning, and there were no German soldiers.
We went one morning. Didn't Solly tell you that we were together?
And was it a Japanese?
Yeah, we didn't know who were they. The faces, we have never seen people like this. We didn't know who are they actually. In the beginning, we thought that the Russians are coming.
And it was actually Japanese American soldiers that liberated you.
Yeah. They came to visit us in. Solly probably told you.
Yeah. And how was the feeling when you woke up and did the German soldiers just run away, or?
No. We woke up in the morning in the woods somewhere. It was actually everything snow and it was cold, and we didn't know we didn't see any Germans anymore. We started to run around and look for food, something. And all of a sudden, trucks came in with a 5-star on the top, and faces that we didn't know who are they actually. But it didn't take long, and we knew who they are, and they started to feed us. And some people ate too much. You had to be very careful because we were not in a position to take too much food with us. Even some people died. They ate too much. They were not careful. So it took some time until they got used to the idea that we are free people. This was me in a kibbutz in Germany.
It's amazing. That's with the wheelbarrow.
In 46. No, this is already afterward. This was a kibbutz. The kibbutz Lochamei Ghetto. This is my kibbutz. We all came together to.
And Abba, you have a picture of you and your father after the liberation?
No. Together with my father, no. I have a picture with my father when I visited.
Oh, this is the picture.
I visited him in 1953.
Oh, in 53. And this was in
Munich.
In Munich. And can I just ask you, Abba, on that death march, how many survived out of those that?
How many what?
How many people survived the death march? How many people survived?
How many people survived?
Yeah.
I don't know. Couple of hundred, couple of thousand. I have no idea. We were not the only ones. There was a big part of going too with us.
Oh, there were also non-Jews.
Sure. This was in the army.
So I want to ask you, Abba, how did you come here? How did you manage to, after the war, you were in the DP camps in Germany?
Yeah.
And then for how long were you in the camps?
Till I left Germany in 1946. In 1946 I came here. I left end of 1945 actually. I left Germany to France with illegal illegally, you know. Although we were taken by the American army, and we had papers that we are going to South America somewhere, false papers. And we stayed a couple of months in France, and then we were taken to Marseille. They said it's a boat. This is what I said. After 14 days with this little boat, the British catched us, thanks God, because it was already almost the end of us, and they brought us to Cyprus.
And you were in the camps in Cyprus?
6 months.
6 months. And Abba, who are in the picture that you're showing?
Those are my 2 great-grandchildren. I have 10.
Ah, Baruch Hashem.
The 11th one is on his way.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Then this was the head of the Bavarian government. He gave me. This is from the German president.
When did you receive this?
Couple of years ago. This was the first one. And the second one I became from the Bavarian president. And the most important one, although they look very nice, I must say. Yeah. But the most important one for me is this one. You know what it is? This is for my service in this Mossad.
In the Mossad. How many years were you in the Mossad?
I don't remember.
Abba, it is unbelievable. Somebody from Kovno, from the Ghetto, from Dachau, from the death march, to land up in the Mossad, to meet with the president, with the Israeli president.
No, I'm the only one. When I was 90 years old, the Bavarian parliament made a party for me with 100 guests. Never happened in Germany. Shall I show you the pictures?
Please.
Wait a minute.
And Abba, before, can I just ask you, this picture here, in the middle.
Yeah, this was a wedding. A cousin of mine got married. And this is a part of the family.
Where was this? In
Kovno.
This is before the war.
Before the war. This is my mother. From this picture survived, I'll tell you exactly, 1, 2, 3. 3 people survived.
3 people from the whole picture.
Yeah.
And above is a picture of your mother and your father. 3 people survived from
my father took the picture. She was the president of the Bavarian parliament.
Wow, this is wonderful.
She made a party for me.
How long ago was this?
When I was 93 years ago.
3 years ago.
3.5 years ago already. I was still a young man.
You still are. You're incredible.
This is me with children in the schools. This is when I dedicated this from the Bavarian president of Bavaria. He gave me the medal.
You can see here's the insignia of the.
I was the only Jew here.
Is this in the?
When they presented the medals, I was the only Jew between all the goyim here.
Is this in the parliament?
Yeah. This is, I gave Merkel my book.
Oh, I'm gonna lift it up.
Never mind, never mind. Here's Spence.
And when you took him, he cried. He's a very, very strong friend of Israel and the Jewish people. Very special man, in my opinion.
Yeah. This was in a concentration camp. This is the way we lived. This was our home.
And this is outside Dachau?
In outer camps of Dachau. This is pictures with children in schools.
This is incredible.
This is in Germany, having a Yahrzeit. Yeah, but there's all Germans. Oh God, I'm the only Jew here.
Where is it at?
In Germany, near the border between Austria and Czechoslovakia.
And you're the only Jew?
I'm the only Jew, and she's also Jewish.
Okay.
She's the president of the München of Bavaria, the Jews of Bavaria. The same picture. This is my daughter, this is my grandchildren in Dachau.
And Abba, can I ask, is it very difficult to go back to Dachau?
For me?
For you to go back?
No, no problem. You know, you get used to things.
But the memories, the first time you went back, was it difficult, the very first time?
Here she is, Merkel.
And for how long have you been going back to Germany?
For how long?
Yeah. When did you start going back?
More than 25 years ago. I'll tell you, this was the only way to not to forget, but to be able to continue living with your memories, to talk about it. Because for generations we didn't talk about it.
Did you talk about it to your children?
Nobody, never.
Never?
Nobody asked us. And we never volunteered to tell our story. Because nobody was ready to listen to us. This is what we thought. Actually, only after the trial of Mengele,
Eichmann.
yeah, it started more or less.
It's true.
But until then, nothing happened.
And nobody asked you. Nobody wanted to know.
Did they ask me if I have education? You know, when I started after the army, I was here without education, without a school. What did I have? 5, 6 years in school, that's all. This was my education. No family, no profession. And I had to survive. I had to find a way to sell myself. When I was asked, what's about education? Did you go to school? I said, of course, I went to gymnasium. My foot, I went to gymnasium.
You were there in the before?
Yeah, before they took me in the Secret Service. I had connections, and this was important. I had connections before the war here, and the same people they took over later on. So one of them helped me, with whom I was very friendly before. We lived in the same town here in Rehovot. I came here. From Cyprus I came here.
To Rehovot?
To Rehovot, yeah.
So you've seen Rehovot grow? And
yeah, I was brought by the Haganah to Rehovot. They said, you go to Rehovot.
And then you fought in the War of Independence?
Yeah.
In the War of Independence, in 48, in the war?
I was in the army like anybody else, but the only difference was on the weekends, you know, when you became off, everybody went home. Did I go home?
You never, no.
Did anybody ask me, why don't I go home? Nobody.
So you stayed in the...
I had to stay in the camp. This was the only place. And when I got a day off, this was always the worst day for me. Because as long as I was in the camp, I had 3 meals a day. And I had a bed where I could sleep.
And nobody asked?
Nobody. And you didn't complain because nobody was listening to you.
And Abba, your wife, where was your wife from?
But
where was your wife from?
My wife?
When you met your wife?
She came with her parents here in 1934. She was the only child, very religious family.
From where?
From Germany. And I really had nothing to do with religion. And matter of fact, until today, I don't understand why did they agree that she should marry me.
Because they saw how special you were. Abba. They saw.
I had nothing to offer. The only thing that what I had, I was already in the Secret Service after the army, and at that time, to have a job in the government, this was something special.
But Abba, you know, I think the family.
I lived in Jerusalem at that time, not in Rehoboth.
In which part of Yerushalayim?
It was here, somewhere in the center. New buildings were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Abba, can I mention, your wife's family saw that you came from Kovno, and Kovno was a very traditional, very Jewish city.
Yeah, they thought that coming from Lithuania, probably I'm religious and.
But you had.
And I'm a government employee, probably very important. Who knows who you are? So they were not against it.
And you got on well with your wife's family? You had a good connection, you got on well?
Yeah, they were very nice people. Very religious. This is Pence, his wife and daughter, in Dachau.
In Dachau. So I know that's where they have the synagogue. They've got for the Jewish memorial the.
Yeah. Pence.
Wow.
And then I'll show a nice picture from Dachau. This was indoor of the barracks. This they show today.
Yeah, I was there about 3 years ago.
Yeah. You know Yiddish?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Can you read Yiddish?
To read, I can understand. Or if you could read it, I understand it, but not
I
the
can read
reading.
with no problem. This is somebody was writing songs of the Ghetto. Itzter werde mir verstehen, was gewesen ist mein Mein. Wenn ich in Komitee nicht bin, ist nicht her und nicht dahin. Nur der Memme sage ich euch, in Komitee ist euch nicht gleich. Einer, was will, das hat, der zweite bleibt, a Don Quixote.
It's really wonderful. Sure. Amazing. Sure.
Those are songs from the Ghetto.
Songs from the Ghetto. Wow.
Oi Kartoffel. You know what Kartoffel is? Potatoes.
Ah, potatoes.
Ja.
Ah, okay.
Oi Kartoffel, der Träum von mein Leben. Du bist mein Bänkschaft, du bist mein Streben. Auf dir warte ich den ganzen Winter, gar du kannst lesen mein Hunger. Nur dir ob ich gebänkt, getracht, sei bei Tag und sei bei Nacht. Auf dir warte ich ganze Tag, ob du bist schon auf dem Weg. Das ist
Sure. And Abba, can I just ask, did you know Avram Tori?
Sure.
I went to see him about 20 years ago in Tel Aviv. I went to visit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a book on Mariupol.
I knew him, he was in the committee in Ghetto.
He wrote also an amazing book on Mariupol.
Oh,
And I went to see him, he was very special.
De song Alte Jiden klappt in Tier. Alte Jiden klappt in Tier, ey. Liebe Menschen, öffnet mir, ey. A ganzen Tag nicht gegessen, ey. Gott und Leid haben mir vergessen, oi. Yeah, these are things you'll never forget.
You'll never forget, sure.
This I got from an Egyptian professor. I was making in Munich. There were a group from Egypt, professors from education people, and I told them my story. They were sitting and crying.
They were crying?
Yeah. They invited me to come to Egypt to tell my story in Egypt. I asked, can you promise me that I'll have a ticket? I let her do. So they gave me this here. This is written in English, you can read it, what it is. This is a part of history.
Sure. It's a certificate that it's the...
You see, those are the pictures, part of them, that I'm showing the children while I'm talking. It's not just a story. The story has a lot of pictures, and sometimes not very nice pictures, but their grandparents did. So, and they got to listen to me for a couple hours.
Do any of the children walk out or don't?
No, never.
Never, it's never happened.
They sit and cry.
What do you say?
The children, the teachers, and today.
Oh, yeah. Abba, can we have a look at some of these pictures?
This is the Mufti of Jerusalem sitting with Hitler. But sometimes I got students, the Arab students. I'll give you what is interesting to see. The Mufti of Jerusalem was most of the time during the Second World War in Berlin.
Yeah.
And Hitler promised him, when he'll take over Palestine, he's going to get the Jews of Palestine. So he had his own army.
And this is in Germany?
This is during the Second World War.
The Mufti in Germany, yeah.
Yeah. So when Muslim children ask me about Palestine, those are the pictures I saw him. I want them to see the pictures, the Mufti with Hitler. They should understand that the plans of the Mufti together with Hitler. With the swastika. This was
the swastika and the sword.
Yeah, this was the army of the Mufti fighting with the Nazis. So the minute they ask me the question, this is the best answer that I can give them.
You're showing them the actual pictures?
Sure, all the time. I saw also pictures. I saw them pictures from Auschwitz, from everything. Of course, the story without pictures, it's not so, you know.
When you see the pictures, it becomes very real. It becomes.
But,
you know, Abba, when you see somebody who was there, it's even more real.
What I call it comes lebendig.
Yeah. But having you there as somebody who's been through.
So I have sometimes, I have lately not so many, but in the beginning I used to have children that used to say, now I'll go home, ask my grandfather what did he do during the Second World War. I don't accuse the children. I tell them the story. That's all. In a very human way.
And do they ask you a lot of questions?
Yeah. people, I give him, the story is told in a way that they should ask questions.
It's important. It's so important.
So this is my story. Now you know.
And Abba, have you ever been back to give a talk in Lithuania in?
No. Never.
You've never been invited.
I don't know if I would go.
And have you been back to Kovno?
I've been back to Kovno because I wanted to see. I wanted to see my home. I wanted to see where I grew up.
And is the house still there?
I need it also for my book.
And Abba, is the house still there in Kovno? The house remains. It's still there.
What?
Your house, it's still there.
Not anymore. The first time when I was there, it still was there, but now it was torn down and they built a big house there, a new house. And this is now my book in Hebrew. This is translated in Hebrew and in English.
And Abba, can I just ask you, when you came to Israel, did you, well,
I was a young boy.
It was Palestine, it was British, under the British at the time.
Yeah.
You kept the connection with those who survived the war, friends of yours from Lithuania, from Kovno?
Yeah, we were the only one. Soli was there, and there was Uri was there.
Uri Hanoch? Yeah.
Uri Hanoch, sure. We were always together. This table can tell the story. This big table, normally our dining room was in another room. It is now empty, the other room. And every time they used to come here, always here, because my wife was a very good cook, and she knew how to cook the Lithuanian way.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is where they used to sit, all of them.
And
this is all gone.
And Abba, can I ask, when did you tell your children, or when did you ever tell your children what
Never.
you went through?
Never. I took them with me to Dachau. I made, every year there is a day of liberation. And this was, I think, I don't remember exactly which year it was. I had to make a speech because the German chancellor was there, she was there. And always thousands of people come in Dachau. It's a big commemoration. I had to make a speech, and I said, I will make a speech only under one condition. I want 2 of my grandchildren to stay with me on the stage, because I wanted to talk about children. And this was, I think it was one of the best for me. It was one of the highest day in my life. Because I told them, look, these two children standing with me. 1.5 million children like this were murdered during the Second World War. Only because they were Jewish children. This was enough, believe me.
That was enough. And showing your children, your grandchildren.
And in the schools, I also show always children, my own grandchildren, when they were small. I never tell them that those are my grandchildren. I tell them only, look at those 3 children. Do they look different than children here in Germany? Or children in America? Children like this, 1.5 million, were killed. Later I tell them, look, these are my grandchildren. But those were exactly children like this. Would they have been then alive, they would not survive. Did they look different? My grandson is in the army now, officer in the army. It's a very good job, I must say, because he's very smart. He finished school and university together in the same time.
So he takes after his grandfather, sure.
And grandfather is an alphabet, no education. But in the army, they were fighting for him. Everybody, every unit wanted him to go in his unit.
Oh, and Abba, one of the most, I think you said, highlights of your life was when you saw that the Israeli army and the German army flew over Dachau.
I was here, connected with Dachau through Zoom, and they were talking to me. I was talking to them. I had an evening with them, also per Zoom with the Israeli forces before they went to Germany, to explain them where they are going, what they are going to see. And when they came, lately when I was there was a delegation from the Israeli Air Force, a big delegation in Dachau, and a young boy, an Israeli pilot from the Israeli army, he asked me, who are you, what are you doing, and I looked at him, he had here his name. I said, hey, Iftzan? Are you connected with Iftzan? Have you heard the name Iftzan? Iftzan was once the chief of the Israeli police in Israel. But he was with us in Ghetto together, with me and Soli and Uri. We were friends, he used to come here. He was in the camp with us, but he never talked about it. He said, this is your grandfather?
Amazing.
Arye is your grandfather? He died already. All my friends, they all died. I'm the only one left.
The only one left, yeah.
I don't know why. Okay.
No. But Abba, I'll mention when the Israeli army and the German army flew over Dachau, that was, I think, the same time, just before Sadi was Nifta, just before he passed away.
Yeah.
And they mentioned it at the Levi.
Before when they flew over, Sadi was still alive.
Yeah.
I had one at Independence Day here. The American Army played the Atikva for me, also per Zoom. This is why he gave me. This was from the Air Force. I went there to speak to the Yom HaShoah. I told them my story at the Israeli Air Force, and this one was with the American army and the Israeli army together.
And it was in April of last year.
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, I was sitting here at the table, and they played the Atikva. Yeah, history.
And Abba, if I can ask you, I know when you go to Dachau and when you spoke and you showed, and you mentioned about the children.
Yeah.
But what message do you try and part on? What message do you give to the future generations?
Look,
what is the most important message?
I'll tell you, we are a small nation, and we need friends. We cannot deny to accept somebody who says, I want to be a friend with you. And if you look over Europe today, actually, the only country that really helps us are the Germans. The connection between Israel and Germany is the best in Europe. Not the French people, not the British, nobody.
The Czech and actually in
The Czechs, they have their own interest in it.
and also, you know, Hungary. Interestingly enough, Hungary's become they've become very pro-Israel as well, which is.
And Hungary are fascist.
But they've at the moment with Orban, it's
Because nobody wants to be friendly with him.
and Slovenia. I was in Slovenia. Slovenia, they've
Yeah,
supported Israel.
They need the Israel tourists.
But you're right.
Don't be naive.
But you know, Abba, you're right. Germany, the relationship between there was a very close connection with Adenauer and Ben Gurion.
I know. When Ben Gurion went to Adenauer, I was already in the Secret Service, so I know a little bit about those things.
Wow. So you know all the story with Dimona, with the whole when the French reneged and Germany helped.
Actually, I know too much.
And you were many years in the Secret Service. Wow. So, but Abba, can I just ask you, when you saw the pictures of the Israeli planes over Dachau,
Yeah.
that must have been a very, very, very emotional for you to see that.
It was very emotional.
It's like a dream come true. Who would have dreamt that?
I gave him also a little knowledge, not only about Dachau, also about the surrounding Dachau. What is this here? Oh yeah, this is the book in English. Part of it. The translation in English. Yeah. Okay.
So, Abba, I just want to, I'm going to sit over here. I just want to thank you. I'm going to just sit over here. Abba, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am so eternally grateful to you for this meeting, for meeting such an icon and a hero.
I didn't even offer you something to drink.
You have offered me an insight into your life, which is I will always remember. No, Abba,
Can I offer you
Abba,
cold water?
No, Abba, I just want to thank you so much. Your story, what you went through, your friendship with Sadi. It's been, for me, the greatest honor and privilege to meet with you.
Friendship, sorry, this is a very normal thing.
But I'm very grateful to you, Abba. I am so grateful.
Here I made with pens in the newspaper.
I'm sure. Abba, you are an icon. You are very special. And
I'm not special, I'm not...
And Abba, you should just be at Mayvestream in good health and muzzle and brocha, and you should continue the very important work that you do. What you are doing is unique.
What are you doing? What are you going to do with all these pictures? That
I'll explain. But what you are doing is really unique, Abba, and you must just continue. It's very, very important.
This is the first time that I'm talking about what I am doing.
It's the first time?
Yeah. Talking to somebody about it.
Abba, I feel so privileged. I cannot tell you what a schut, what an honor it is for me. First of all, to meet you, it's been the greatest schut, but to hear you and actually having our parents coming from Mariupol near Kovno and having been in Kovno.
Mariupol, yeah.
But Abba, thank you very much. And all of Hashem's blessings at Mayvestream in good health, and may you just continue the incredible work that you're doing. And Bemet Tadara B'Em Kol Halev. Thank you so much, Abba.
Okay.
Abba, this is really the first time that you've spoken about it like this?
Yep.
Wow. What a honor.